This is Virpil's new, sort of budget, flight base and stick, the Aeromax, and it's pretty interesting. They've left out a few of the extras you might find in their higher end bases and sticks, and just concentrated on the parts that matter. But have they taken away too much? Not only that, does it sit at an odd sort of pricing point, considering some of the other sticks on the market? Virpil sent this stick through for testing and review, but won't see or know anything about this video before it gets published. We're going to cover off a few things here. Design and build quality, and I don't think there's going to be any surprises there. The feel of the stick, the software, how it sits in the general stick landscape, and the pricing and value. Because like most specialised products, they're not for everyone. Before we get stuck into all that, we have some features to talk about. And the first thing is this retains Virpil's metal dual cam gimbal with dampers. And that comes with its own benefits, and we'll talk about that soon. There's a mini throttle lever axis that can be installed both on the left and right hand side of the base. But the thing I love most about this is that you can loosen a few screws under the boot and apply rotation to the stick. So if you're flying center stick, you're able to position it at the correct angle. It seems like a minor thing, but it can make such a difference. There's a handy LED indicator showing what stage or config your switches might be in. That's for the flip trigger and this little switcher on the back. You have an adjustable palm rest on the grip itself, and you can see here it's in its lowest setting, which fits my hand quite well. For a bit of context, my hand measures 9.5 inches from here to here. There's 36 buttons and 7 axes on the grip plus 1 axis on the base. Also, one of those axes is the twist grip, which you would typically use for rudder control, but it can be locked off on the hardware by this screw here, or disabled in the software. It can be hard mounted if you want to get the drill out, and that would always be my recommendation, but it also comes with this base or a plate for a desk with some rubber pads on it, which do work quite well for the most part. But the most important feature, to me anyway, is the adjustable dampers. Inside you'll find a hex screw for each axis. A simple turn will increase or decrease the dampening effect. And that's something I thought they would have cut out of this product, but they left it in. That's it for features. Fairly standard in terms of flight sticks with all the important parts included. But there is a major sort of feature that we've lost when comparing to Virpil's other sticks, and that's the swappable grips. The Aeromax stick is permanently attached, and if you want to be able to change the stick or the grip out, you'd have to opt for Virpil's higher end bases. So again, to be clear, this is one whole contained unit. So that's one of the things it looks like they've done to cut down on the costs. But what else have they cut away or skimped on here? To that, I would say not much. This is a very typical Virpil build. The included grip is the same standard as their existing Alpha sticks and F18 stick that I have. It's a full plastic grip, but as you can see from some of these shots and how it looks in my hands, there's a lot of care and attention here. Although, if I was to pick out the weakest point, it would be this flip trigger. It just feels a little bit light. All the other buttons are, I would say, standard for something in this price range. But the brake axis is beautiful. And so is that little slider switch on the back. And the same goes again for the extra axis on the side. On the base, there's a very high quality rubber boot, and I'm a big fan of this. I'd take a rubber boot like this any day over some of those PU leather ones. The gimbal top ring is metal, but the surrounding body on the base is what I would call a high quality plastic. Obviously not to the same standard as their other bases, but very nicely finished at the same time. But here's the surprising part. All the internals are still what we've come to expect from Virpil. A full metal clutch and damper system, however, it doesn't come with any extra springs or cams, but they've retained the adjustable damper, and for me that's absolutely enough. In terms of how the stick feels, To start off, it's very smooth, almost as smooth as the Warbird, which I think is Virpil's arguably best ever base. There is a fair amount of tension built in and it's lightly dampened out of the box. The accuracy of the return on the stick is spot on, and the detent through the centre of both axes is what I would call dull and muted. Personally, I'd like less of a detent, but some people will like more. It's all just personal preference. Moving on to accuracy, this is running the same sensors as Virpil's high-end sticks, and that translates. You can see here it's accurate, smooth, and there's no perceivable latency. Now, something I was a little worried about was the base plate, which if you're not bolting this thing down and you're just having it on a desk, and that's exactly how I tested this, you'd be worried about the movement, but it stayed put most of the time. You do have to watch how hard you throw the roll axis. If you're overly rough with it, it will rock a little, but under what I would call, let's say, normal use, it was absolutely fine. Going back on that though, I do think it would have been great to have suction cups instead of rubber pads as an option in the box. I think everything comes together here to make a flight stick in terms of feel that punches slightly above its weight when you consider the price. And we'll talk about the price in a bit because it sits in a bit of an odd position. But before that, I'll quickly touch on the software. It comes with the VPC Cadet configurator. It's very easy to understand and calibrate the axes, and you will have to calibrate everything before you get started. In order to do that, you need to click Start Primary Axis Calibration and then go through the full range of motion on each axis. You'll also see this animated real-time graphic of the stick as you move it. Some might say it's overkill, but I thought it was pretty cool. Everything else in here is self-explanatory. You can change the sensitivity curves, save the load profiles, firmware updates, if there is any. All in, I enjoyed such a simple interface and everything just worked. Now for the fun part, the pricing and the value. At the end of the day, this is what it comes down to. At $200 US, this is a good stick. When you see how the internals are built, backed up by the Virpil name and values, you can't really go wrong with this. However, some of the other sticks in the price range that you could say compete with it, well, some of them have more functions, more buttons on the base, more things you can map. And one of those other sticks could be better if you're looking to use a flight stick as a single unit, meaning no throttle. So you definitely have to weigh that up. But then you don't get the high-end Virpil build quality that you'll find under the hood here. And that does translate into feel, which is very good for the $200 price tag. So it might lack some bindable buttons and knobs compared to the competition, but you are gaining build quality, feel and adjustability to a degree with those dampers. We're just going to interrupt the video for a minute for some sort of late developments, if you like. First one is the price. Both the stick and the optional upgrade or the lever has had a little bit of a price bump due to the tariffs from goods coming in from China into the US. So the stick is now at $220 US and the optional lever is now at $20 US. Now that doesn't change my opinion or thoughts in the terms of value. This is still a mid-tier stick and good value at that. But it does take it that one notch closer to those higher end sort of tiered sticks. A good example might be the Wing Orion. However, you know, those prices for anything coming in from China is all up in the air at the moment, so we don't really know where all that's going to end up, and we kind of have to wait until the dust settles a little bit. So a little bit of a bump in price for those two. Now the second thing is towards the end of editing this video, when I was going through some of the macro shots and including them in the video of the internals, I did notice some internal surface rust. Now it was very minor, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Do I think it'll make a difference to the function in any way? I really don't think so. Now when I received this stick, I never noticed any of this. Now that could be because it's developed over the few weeks that I've had it here. Now I do live in a tropical climate fairly close to the ocean. But I did check all the other Virpil products that I have, and none of them are showing any signs of that kind of fine internal surface rust on those bare metal components. My gut feeling is this is going to be a one-off, and I will reach out to Virpil once this video goes live. Time to move on with the rest of the video. Now for the pros and the cons, and the pros first. It's a reasonable price and a good mid-tier option. Great build quality, adjustable damper. The internal design and build is similar to high-end Virpil bases. The throttle lever can be on the left or the right side. The angle of the stick can be adjusted for centre mounting. The grip is adjustable for different sized hands, and they now have a warehouse in the US and the UK. And of course, I can't say for sure, but this would lead me to believe the shipping times and stock levels might be a little bit better than what you're used to. Now the cons. You are stuck with the existing grip. You cannot swap it out. That trigger flip switch feels a little bit light. It's, I would say, easy to accidentally move it, although there is that LED indicator on the top to let you know if that's happened. You'll need an adapter plate if you want to hard mount this, or you could drill out some 4mm holes for it. Where the base plate with the rubber feet actually works quite well. It would have been nice to see some suction cups there. So I think that Virpil have got this one right, and it all starts with the price. They've kept all the essentials like adjustable dampers and all the metal internal components, and just get rid of the extras like the extra springs, cams and swappable grips, and the metal base construction. This mid-range stick is every ounce of Virpil that I've certainly come to expect over the years. I like the software, and that's the first time I've said that about Virpil software. The feel is also very smooth and dampened. Just keep in mind there is a muted detent through the middle, and if you're after something that's smooth all the way through, I'd be looking at something like the Thrustmaster Ava base. But then you're also probably starting to look at more than twice the price by the time you get a grip on it. There is also the Ursa Minor, which is actually even cheaper than this, but the build quality of that is not on the same level as the Virpil. Then you could look at the Thrustmaster Sol, which they recently released. The Sol has way more buttons and knobs and is more of a complete do-everything stick. But with the Virpil, you're gaining that adjustable, smooth, dampened feel and the damper adjustability. There is also the VKB option, but unfortunately I just haven't had much time with VKB gear, so I can't really comment on that. I'll finish off with this. Anyone looking for a good mid-range flight stick that's dampened and feels fairly sturdy, but also, and this is important, plans to have a separate throttle, I would recommend the Aeromax. I feel like most people would be very happy with it. But if you're looking for that kind of do-it-all stick with more functions, buttons and knobs, there are others on the market that might be a better choice. Just keep in mind that you'd be trading functions for feel and adjustability. And that's where the Aeromax shines. The adjustable grip angle, adjustable palm rest, and adjustable dampers. It's basically a stick with great adjustability and a build quality to match.